What up, everybody? It's your boy Mikey, and I'm back. And in light of the spooky season, Halloween, I'm going to be telling you all some creepypasta stories that I found over the web on creepypasta.com. Let's say hello to a few people. Liz, hello. Connor, hello. Calvin, what's going on, buddy? So, let's get into this. Wait. Yeah, Liz is up in the mountains right now. Hi, Connor. All right, let's get to the first story here. It's called Oblivious, and it was written by John Allen. I've never been a reader, so I don't know how it's possible. But there is a proverb I know. The dead cannot reveal any secrets. Given my current state, I choose to disagree. My name was Narnia Kazarian, but I was an entity, the chronic cool of Narnia. It's cute, right? Yes, an obvious play on words, homage to the C.S. Lewis novels that were my namesake. Maybe it was a tad egocentric, but nonetheless, the pun worked within the confines of my popular online beauty channel. Glamly members, it's your girl Narnia K dropping in one last time before Friday night's Trendies, streaming live from Dolby Theater in downtown LA at 8. Around 700,000 viewers would hear those words, the last spoken in live, as I plugged the Fleeting Influencer Awards show. My assumption was a glitch when the digits on the view tracker dropped into nothingness almost as quickly as they disappeared. It made little sense at the time. The multitude of people simply does not log off in perfect harmony. Now it all makes sense. So many things make sense now. My current reality is that I've been reliving my final days and now see mist. Details that should have smacked me in the face then. It began when I closed the laptop on the final broadcast and missed Daddy's very visible note text to the PC. The Escalade has half a tank. You must fill it up before leaving. The reply is starting again. My iPhone quakes after finishing the last live stream, but I hit silent without a look at the screen. I assume it's the unusual influx of after-show fans' comments and can't be bothered. It's always an admirer praising me or a troll seeking attention. It's time to leave the Calabas anyways, as I planned to spend the next 2 days prepping for the award ceremony an hour away in the solitude of a family cabin, hidden deep within the woods away from LA traffic or trick-or-treaters. As camping trips go, I wouldn't exactly be that. Looking back, it was hardly a rough outing for me. The 22-year-old privileged, entitled daughter of real estate magnate Ephraim Kazarian and famed 70s model Janet Price. Rich people are bizarre. We simply exist in one world, ours, while everyone else does their own thing. What is a mere cabin to daddy is another $3 million chunk of dreams. Yes, I now realize the life of Narnia Kazarian was quite charmed. Realizing it's too late and pointless, I think wealth and fame led to my demise. Actually, I'm certain of it. Vanity and excess bred tunnel vision. Have I mentioned that you're hearing a ghost? My channel's success surprised no one. Ariel was my best friend and also the starlet of the Hulu's horror series 13 Terrors. And she tweeted about my channel early on. Lennon was a friend whose mom was reality TV famous and also tweeted photos of makeovers I gave her. Double dipping into our shared quest for attention, that was huge. Then God herself smiled upon me. Because when Kardashian follows you, you become insta famous. So let's go to some comments here real quick before I continue on. Let's see. Okay, people saying hi. Hello, Stephen P. Kitty Cat. What's going on, man? See, Stephen says meow. Hey, by the way, Stephen P. Kitty Cat, nice show yesterday. Loved it. So Liz here says the name Narnia is pretty cool, but it also implies that there is a secret door for others to enter in. Oh my God. So, back to the story. My beauty game was decent, maybe above average, but since I'm dead now, I'm honest, it was nothing compared to rival streamers. However, they had no names to drop or celebs to tag. Pretty and rich always exceeds skill. That's reality in that space. At the time though, I assumed that the success was my birthright. There we go. I'm not sure how long since time is not real anymore. But I've been watching the final days of my life like a documentary. I'm embarrassed. I'm literally watching now. I watched the Escalade amble through my gated neighborhood on the gorgeous October day with half a tank of gas as my selfie fingers clutch the phone and my perched lips curve into action. I swerve and almost sideswipe a car only to laugh about it. Once I post whatever was so urgent, the likes and upvotes, things the material girl I always craved, merely trickle with a whimper. Unlike the typical barrage of heart emoticons, a curiosity for sure, but I have no time to wonder as suddenly the app freezes and the phone rattles with violence. Another Amber Alert, I figure, and toss the tech edition aside. Missed calls from mom and unread texts from dad are tossed aside as well, but I don't realize it. The living me wouldn't have, the dead me notices everything, and I wonder if this is hell. Merging onto the PCH, I pursue my speech while soaking in the clothesline. Breaking news interrupts the radio. An annoyance quickly discarded in favor for the Lana Del Rey on Spotify. The ocean view must be spectacular, I think, since the cars are stopping and people exit their vehicles to stare. Tourist, I laugh aloud, the outstate plates. Go away. You can't afford to live here. Why torture yourself? Ugh, the privileged voice. At the cabin, our caretaker is missing. A mental note to have been fired is filed. How will the massage therapist get in tomorrow, or the driver on Friday? I open the gate and leave that way, seeing my inconvenience, but somehow not seeing the note been affixed to the wrought iron bars. Then I actually carry my own bags like a savage. What a fool I was looking back. Lugging an overpriced junk in my red sole Louis Vuitton heels. Night is one immediately exhausting. The Wi-Fi won't work, so my toys are useless. Logic says to read the text from my parents, but I opt to play Candy Crush as the battery drains. I plan to stream my prep work. People love behind the scenes voyeur shots. I have my primary dress, a vintage original 1978 Versace that Mom wore in Vanity Fair spread with Cher and Farrah Fawcett. In case of disaster, I have my backup gown and my backup's backup, both Tom Ford creations. I have 3 grand in cosmetics, Chanel, Dior, and MAC. One for one use, my hair is pre-COVID. I can't spell that. I can't pronounce that right. And only a few minor adjustments will be required. Adjustments that my chronic cool can handle with ease. I have everything but the most important thing. Thanks to the Wi-Fi, I have no audience to watch in the process, which horrifies me. I know this dead version of me is going to be 22 for the rest of eternity, but I feel like a wise old sage when absorbing the pretentiousness of the living me. I decided to be gross and watch cable since that's the disaster I'm left with. But all channels are blank except one. A local station struggles through, and some anchor with the helmet hair being dramatic. Probably another wildfire, I guess. Click, I'm bored already. So let's get back to some comments here. Liz Clevenger Areola. That was a great show. Then, hey everyone over here on. And Stephen P. Keita Cat says, wait, what? I step away for 2 minutes and take my meds, and you're discussing what? Areola. So, minutes later, gently placed a cucumber slices blanket in my eyes, and I slide my sensory deprivation pods into my ears and fall into a slumber to fight the frustration, or at least I think I did. Somewhere in the middle of the night, I stir. Initially, I know I must have dreamt it because of the cracking. Thunder and explosions could have penetrated my noise cancellation pods regardless. I am now awake. Gone is the electricity, the livelihood for everything I am. My weary eyes peer outside through a now fractured window, cucumber juice hitting my pupils, and I see nothing. Had I looked closer, I might have noticed the dearth of the stars in an area famous for sky watching. Instead, I dance to the tune of self-pity. There is no way to Skype with Dr. Paulson, so I give up on the evening again. Oh, an emergency generator sits alone in the basement, but I'm not about to touch that greasy thing. I could scoot into town had my gas tank not been stuck on E. Under my Burberry covers and weighted blanket, I nestle, sleepy and annoyed. Thursday morning is worse. No power, only one day until the awards. All ways to tell time are drained. Flashing a cursory glance towards the window, outside is a faded yellow haze, which is not normal. Most people would have been ravaged with curiosity, but not the fabulous Narnia Kazarian. Eerie lighting does not pique my interest. Why? Breakfast is paramount on my mind. It is, after all, to be my final meal until af- after the awards tomorrow. Sorry. Salivating at the thought of avocado toast, I realize there's no way to actually toast it. I take my malicious glee now and watching the living me falter because it's so ridiculous and unfathomable how dense I was. Seeing my face morph into a pathetic pout is strangely satisfying in the dead place I live now. It is this disastrously abode called hindsight. Breakfast becomes sips of grapefruit juice as I attempt to get anything from my gadgets. The device remains silent, but not everything is muted. Sirens blare in the hills with clarity. What do I do? I soak I soak in more Lana with the remaining life of my MP3. And I soak in the basement jacuzzi, enjoying the still warm water while it lasts. The living me didn't see the battery powered radio plainly displayed atop of the generator. The dead me can only see it and nothing else. This part makes me sick. After enjoying the cabin's amenities, I gaze into my vanity mirror with great affection for myself for several hours. An antique porcelain brush weaves through strawberry blonde strands as I practice emoting from my good side. The question of when the girl from the spa will arrive for for my foot massage pokes me. My pampering is scheduled for 6, so I'll use the girl's phone to call daddy and fix everything wrong with the stupid cabin. Like the inept caretaker and shoddy wiring and the rest of the unacceptable misfortunes that don't belong in a civilized world. The spa girl is late. Waiting is not something I do. I wait and I wait some more. A solar tiki torch allows me to inspect the Versace with a few feverish vigor for flaws. I investigate the cabin and saunter into Daddy's media room, which is covered with walls of DVDs. His antique viewing platform makes me laugh. His collection of movies is not my vibe. Independence Day, Idiocracy, Clueless, no Channing Tatum anywhere. Guess this chick was too into Channing Tatum. Darkness envelopes the cabin and Spall Girl is AWOL. So muscle memory causes me to reach for my phone to drag the spa over social. God, spoiled ass chick, man. No, Steven, it's not from the storybook. This is creepypastas that I came up on. So there's still no electricity, and I've watched this part often since I've been dead. And this stupidity always makes me label the living me as such, a pretentious, affected twit. Time blurs, and I can only assume the ceremony is getting close. The limo could arrive any time. With minimal lighting, I apply makeup quite well, I must admit. At least enough to draw attention to my face and away from my hair. I slink into the Versace with ease, the hunger pains in my stomach telling me why. The things that sparkle are adorned with perfection, and lastly, I wiggle my feet into a pair of peep toe pumps that the Jessica Simpson line is paying me to be seen in. Stephen P. Kitty Cat says, so much for my efforts to make fun of Bob Woodard. I don't even know who Bob Woodard is. Anyhow, Time to exhale and reclaim my center, as my meditation guru in Bel Air has taught me. Then, for the first time in days, my silhouette throws its shadow through the door frame. Well, this is when it all made sense to the living me. When all the missed signs and blatant warnings flashed before me, quite jarring thing to realize mere seconds after it's too late, I suddenly remember the note from Daddy. The SUV was on empty now, and there was no driving out of there. The people on the highway staring above at something, the frantic attempts by others to reach me, the sirens and the breaking news and the police officers and missed miracles. Even Daddy's silly movie collection now appeared to have been a gutting case of foreshadowing. None of this matters now, though. If the irony has taste, it is very, very bitter. Dressed like a queen, I must appear as though I am presenting myself to them as the elite celestial neighborhood has to offer. Or perhaps they understand our ways and think I'm giving Halloween my best shot. Anyway, it is quite an image to absorb, almost too beautiful to be horrifying. Almost. Like a checkerboard crafted with precision and exact mathematical spacing, the sky above is filled with the ovular ships for miles and beyond. The massive array of the invading army is a lesson in eerie excellence, as the behemoth vessels rest in silence and stillness. No longer does life prove existence through the twittering of birds or the banal echoes of humans at play. The alien menace floats as conquering gods, and I know in this exact moment that all is lost. At least it was quick and painless, the pricing yet calming light of the ship directly above as it entered my soul. That was the last thing I'll ever remember of life. Now I'm cursed to replay the headless flaws of my characters until a higher power dedicates otherwise. I suppose I can take my solace in looking good while I wait. One thing is certain, I'm proof that the paranormal is real. Who else can say they've answered both questions of whether we're alone in the universe as well as if there's something beyond death? And all in one day. Neither is more frightening than pedestrians detachments that brought me here. The only proverb I ever knew said, "The dead cannot reveal any secrets." It said nothing of revealing the dreadful, cruel ruination that comes from being oblivious. So that's the first story here. Let's go on to the second story. Here's something.
The bunnies of chaos are coming for you.
The bunnies of chaos are coming for you.
Good morning.
All right. Well, guess we got invaded by the bunnies of chaos again. Damn you, Miss Grossman. I swear. Monster is Real is coming for you all, man. Those bunnies of chaos, they better watch it. Well, anyways, welcome back. Let's get on to the other story. Here's for the Halloween tradition here. It's called Halloween Night, and it's by Dr. A.K. Stein. I love you, Halloween. This exclamation, 6-year-old Harry cried out to the night Sky left his mother, Miss Jane Florence. Reeling with laughter at the door, they'd just gotten home from trick-or-treating, along with Harry's older sister Sabrina, who already inside, calling for them to hurry up so the candy could be sorted. Halloween loves you too, sweetie, Jane called chuckling in her Space Ranger costume. Harry turned to her, a wide smile over his zombified face, covered in white and black makeup that left his face ashen white with dark eye sockets and lips. Bits of red pigment dotted his mouth for the more realistic effect. Though it faded a bit, as Jane suspected, the boy hadn't the self-control to keep from licking ketchup off his face. So are we going to stay out here all night, or do you want some candy? Candy, the children cried, running up the steps past their pumpkins decorated with sharp-toothed smiles and witch hats. He only stopped for one moment, mindful that none of his candy fell out from his orange pumpkin basket. Then something caught his eye. Another trick-or-treater on the sidewalk going by in rather strange fashion. And he turned back to look. And Stephen P. Kitty Cat says, what about areolas? There's no areolas in this. Shoo, kitty, shoo. Nasty kitty, shoo. I'm just joking. And it was Sam Sidewalker. Well, let's read on. Maybe it might be, maybe it might not be. Let's see. So, it was a mime, only 3.5 feet tall, reaching his hands out, grabbing at the air, and pulling them back as though to yank himself along an invisible rope. He wore black and white striped clothes and had on makeup similar to Harry's, though smoother and more refined, with black lines running down over the boy's eyes. "Happy Halloween," Harry called out, waving. The mime stopped for a moment and leaned back casually at a strange angle, as though the air held him. He returned the wave and a grin. "Look at him," Harry called out to his mother, chuckling. Clucking. I said clucking. "It's a real mime." "Oh," his mom said, looking back outside the door. "Aw, that's cute," she laughed. Though after a moment, a frown crept across her lips, and she looked around. "I don't see his parents." The mime was already on the move again, heading further down the street with his invisible rope. Jane followed along with her eyes. Harry looked up at her, concerned by the tell of her curled lips. "They're probably somewhere else on the street," he said. "Look, that's probably them." And he pointed to another family coming up the sidewalk. Two pirate parents. Pirate parents. "Hi, Mike." Two pirate parents with kids wearing a shark costume far too big for them. The shark maw that should have been where the child's face would pop out, jutted well above the child's head. Pointed to the sky with the sharp teeth, their parents had to guide them along. The sight of such costumes got a laugh out of Jane, but still her gaze immediately returned to where she saw the mime, gone now. So this dude was out ski, man. He was gone. "Come on," Harry complained, tugging at her hand. "I want to eat candy." She sighed as the family with the shark passed by the house in the same direction the mime went, then smiled at Harry. "All right," she said, closing the door. "Looks like you were right." "Ugh, get over here, you slugs." 9-year-old Sabrina called from the kitchen. "You're wasting my candy time." "Órale, pinches huerquillos." "Cálmanse." Candy time, Harry chanted. Galloping into the kitchen, Sabrina sat at the head of the table, her candy piled in front of her like a hoard of gold. Híjole, pinches huerquillos, they're going to be hyper. Híjole. She was a scarecrow with a straw hat over her head, wearing a blue jumper with straw sticking out of her jacket sleeves. And across the table was their dad, Mr. Dan Florence, who held little baby Patricia asleep in her pickle costume. Who dresses their kid as a pickle? Harry, he called out. His son ran in. How much candy did you get? A whole lot. Oh, I bet, he chuckled. He was wearing a black suit with a cape, vampire dentures in his mouth. He laughed like Dracula. Give me all your candy to me, my zombie minion. Never, you old corpse, Harry snapped, running to his place at the table and slamming his basket of candy down. He bounced in his chair like a happy puppy. All right, dig in, guys, Jane declared. And all the children tore into their candy, leaving ripped wrappers strewn across the table as they devoured the chocolates, gummies, Twizzlers, and the Ikes? Not sure, but I think they misspelled it. It says like, but I think they meant to say Ikes. How's our little pickle baby? Oh my God. Jane asked, bending over to give her. Oh God, I can't say this without laughing. Shit. Out like a light. She really wore herself out before when we got this on her. Oh, poor thing, Jade said, touching the baby's cheek. She really didn't want to be put in the pickle. Who puts a baby in a pickle? I mean, seriously. Yeah, probably, Jane responded wearily. She looked to the candy-devouring monsters and smiled. How's the haul this year? Sabrina held a thumbs up out, chewing on a whole chunk of chocolate. Brown bits of it smeared across her lips. Harry was in the middle of sucking on a lollipop. He took it out for a moment to speak, whirling it. The best one yet, he exclaimed, and snatched a candy bar from his basket. Look at this Hershey bar. It was one of the big ones, and he held it out in front of him, proud as though it was a fish he had caught. Oh, look at that, Jane said with a smile. You really did good this year. Yep. And he sucked the lollipop for a bit more. Did you see mine, Dad? He blurted out. A mime? Oh, did you see the mime, Dad? He blurted out. A mime? No, but it sounds creepy. Creepy? Harry cried. No, I'm the creepy one. Mimes are funny. You're a creep, Sabrina commented, sticking out her tongue, blue from a piece of gum. It's Halloween. You're supposed to be a creep. Not every costume has to be scary. Yes, they do, Harry said, offended. And your stupid scarecrow costume isn't scary at all. Typical kids. Hey, Jane said firmly. Stupid is an ugly word. You don't want to have to go to bed early, do you? No, Harry said, his tone immediately changing to meek as he turned back to his candy. Sabrina smirked at him, satisfied. Now, Sabrina, don't tease him, Dan said. If you two start arguing, and then his voice switched out to Dracula again. Your candy will be all mine. No, shrieked the children. You can't do that, Harry insisted. Yeah, Sabrina went on. To the force of her shriek before had made her straw hat fall off, exposing her curly blonde hair. We have rights. The Constitution says no. Oh, not according to the parenting rule book. That book doesn't exist, Sabrina accused. Yeah, we've never seen it. Kids aren't allowed to see it, Dan finished with a sly grin. Article 15. That's a load of baloney. Say what? Say what you want, Dan shrugged. The book is absolute. Well, if you take my candy, Harry threatened, the Hollow Man will come after you. Oh? Who's the Hollow Man? Dan asked, amused. Yeah, tell us about him, Jane encouraged. He's a ghost, Harry said, doing his best at making a low, ominous voice. He got grounded for too long and starved to death, and he follows around bad parents who are mean to their kids. Calvin, the dad tax. Yeah, there's always a dad tax. So, should I be scared? Dan asked, flashing his fake fangs. Yes, Harry said sharply. He follows you to the ends of the earth, and when he finds you, you can't turn your back to him. And what happens if I do turn my back to him? He'll kidnap you. Oh no, that sounds bad. But that's not the worst part. It gets worse, much worse, Harry went on. He'll lock you up in a car, and he'll give you a fate worse than hell. Oh? What does he do when you're in the car? Jane questioned, egging him on. For the rest of eternity, you'll have to listen to country music. How dare you, Sabrina screeched. And their parents bent over, cackling. That sounds terrifying, Dan exclaimed. No, it doesn't, Sabrina insisted. Country music is great. Country music sucks, Harry countered. Sabrina grunted. Your taste sucks. I think you're in the minority here, Sabrina, Jane chuckled. All your taste sucks, and I'm the only one in this darn house that knows what good music sounds like. She threw a dark piece of candy at Harry. You have to eat the black Twizzler now. Oh, we got Igor here. Hello. Oh, all the way from Poland. Wow. Welcome. Ew, he cried, swatting it away. It'll give me the plague. What? Dan exclaimed. Black Twizzlers are great. I'll eat it if you don't want it. Well, then get it out of our sight. Harry tossed it over to him. Don't mind if I do, Dan said, licking his lips as he undid the wrapper. Yum. And he bit off half of it. That's gross, Harry complained. It's because he likes his coffee black, Sabrina explained, as though this was a scientific fact. His taste buds died long ago. So I don't see what the problem is with black coffee, because I drink black coffee sometimes. Dad's taste buds are dead. Hey, Dan said with the hurt voice, uncool. And he laughed, continuing to dig into their candy and enjoy the last moments of this Halloween night. So let's go to a quick commercial break here. And I'll get back with the other half of the story.
This is Mikey from Out of the Ordinary, and you're watching PBDC TV.
Oh, hi! First thing in the morning, when I'm listening to music and getting a little bit of time for some creepy research, I'm always representing with my PBDC merch. What a better way to have a cup of coffee in the morning.
Don't forget to check out our other cool merch at rootsbleedred.com. That's rootsbleedred.com.
This is Professor Edgar Fluffosaurus from Spooky Tales with Steve the Cat, and when I'm not hosting Monster Chat or knocking down small Japanese cities, I'm watching PBDC TV. Now back to the show.
All right, we're back. So, let's get more into this story here. So, Harry was in bed now, lying against his pillow in ghost pajamas, ready for sleep. He'd insisted on keeping the zombie makeup on until tomorrow, allowing that was all his parents could do to bargain with him not to eat all his candy in one night. So he lied there waiting to drift off, wishing for his next Halloween to be even better. As consciousness left him, there was a knock at the front door and the sound of footsteps coming to answer. He didn't hear what happened after. Late in the night, Harry awoke, startled by a sudden tapping at his door. He sat up, groaning like the zombie he was dressed as, and there it was again. 3 knocks at his bedroom door. His gaze turned to the doorway, a painful sensation in his eyes from being awoken so late. "Mom, is that you?" he called. There was silence. Harry lied back down with a sigh. A dream, maybe, he thought. The knocking returned, even louder now. Harry sat back up and got down from the bed. "Better not be you, Sabrina," he warned. "If you're trying to scare me, I'll tell Dad. He'll take your candy." He walked closer to the door and shivered. There was a strange coldness to the room, as though the chill air from the outside had crept in with a trembling hand. He reached for the doorknob, but stopped with his fingers on the cold steel. With his eyes still adjusting to the darkness, he noticed all the dark shapes about his room. And the thought occurred to him, what if it's a monster? Goose flesh broke out over his skin. His hair stood up. He noticed his heart start to beat faster. His breathing growing hoarse as he stared down the door. "I'm not scared, Sabrina," he lied. There was no response, just dead silence. He waited 10 seconds, 20, 30 for more knocking. Anything paying no mind to the cold numbness slowly overtaking his hand. Finally, after what felt like an hour-long minute, he turned the knob and opened the door. "Oh, it's you." His voice was surprised yet tinted with relief. It was the mime. Oh, shit. Standing before him in the front door, he was just about Harry's height, wearing oversized baggy pants that trailed down past his feet. His hair was slicked back over his head, as black as the makeup covering in his dark eyes. The mime gave him a crescent smile, put a pale finger tipped with black nails to his lips, a signal to hush. "Why are you here?" Harry whispered, nodding. "And why did you have to knock so loud?" Stephen P. Cat says, "Art the Clown." The mime moved to the right, beckoning Harry to follow, and walked over towards the kitchen. Harry leaned out of his room, watching him move down the hall. How did he even get in? He thought. And why is no one else up? He looked to the rooms adjacent to his, Sabrina's to the right, and his parents, and the babies in front of him. The doors were both closed, and there was nothing but darkness behind the cracks. Did no one else hear? He started towards his parents' door. If anyone needed to be up, it was them. But just when he reached for the door, a hand burst out from the darkness, grabbing a hold of his wrist. It was the mime. Harry opened his mouth, ready to scream. That is when a small object tossed into his gullet, and the burst of flavor invaded his throat. It was a sweet taste like chocolate was crackling intensity that woke his sleepy mind up immediately. The best candy he ever tasted. He chewed and chewed, savoring the smooth, gummy texture, and looked to the mime, smiling brightly. The mime held out more candies, nodding to Harry to take them. He snatched them greedily, lapping them up for the heavenly taste. And the mime led him away, down the hall towards the kitchen, swaying unsteadily, as though walking on a tightrope. Harry tried to mimic the movements, still overcome by the taste of the candy. Almost tumbling over with a laugh, the mime caught him, and Harry saw his black lips flip open and close as though to laugh, but no sound came out. True to his costume, the mime was utterly silent. Harry didn't notice, but the mime didn't even make a noise as they ran to the kitchen. Not even a floorboard creaked under his careful feet. They got into the kitchen, and the mime came to a sudden halt, stumbling back from the doorway and falling over as though he'd run into an invisible wall. "Wow," Harry laughed. "You're really good at this." The mime responded with silent, laughing lips motion again, though not in any way that he can be described as normal. It was as though he had wires raising him up. He didn't use his hands at all. In fact, his whole body remained straight and rigid, rotating upwards. Harry clapped awkwardly. He felt the feat was impressive, yet seemed so inhuman. It was as if the mime had used magic to levitate. He didn't laugh this time, and a frown crept over his face. The mime had a slouch now, yet strangely his eyes still met Harry's at an equal height. And then there was a bit of drool screeching from his lips. A chill ran down Harry's spine as he trembled. Something was very wrong here. He knew it, but he couldn't quite put it into words. All the events since he'd woken up there like a lucid dream, absolutely unnatural, but with just enough normalcy to seem real. It was then that he noticed the front door wide open, letting all the heat out. The porch light was out, and all he saw outside were rustling leaves under the pale moonlight, obscured by the cloudy night. He would have realized it earlier if the house wasn't already so cold. But he'd been so caught up in their antics, he'd completely missed it earlier. "Why is the door open?" he asked. The mime flashed a sinister frown. "Did you?" At the moment, the mime moved with unnatural quickness, putting his face directly in front of Harry's. He looked the mime straight in the eyes, cold, dark, and he didn't have the vocabulary to verbalize it, but he knew intuitively what that look was: feral. But in an instant, the mime's face brightened up and smiled sharply. He gestured towards the kitchen doorway, and led by the hand, Harry followed, too frightened to resist. Though as soon as he entered the kitchen, the tension felt somewhat relieved. On the table was a colossal hoard of myriad candies, such a dense pile that you couldn't see the word underneath. And over on the counter was a stack of square cardboard cutouts. The mime grabbed them as Harry oogled the candy. Can I have some? Harry asked, turning to the mime with a nervous smile. The mime held out one of the cardboard pieces. It read in big black letters, "Ta-da!" And the mime threw it with unnecessary gusto, tossing it behind him into the sink. The next piece of cardboard read, "My name is Samuel. Do you want to be my friend?" Harry laughed a bit more comfortable now. Sure, he said, and Samuel grinned. Making his silent laugh again, they sat down the table and dug into the candy. Somehow it tasted even better than before. It was like eating pure sugar mixed with the richest taste and smoothest textures imaginable. All the cold that had crept into the house seemed to have faded now. This was his heaven. He guzzled the candy down like water from the fountain of youth. "It's great, isn't it?" Another of Samuel's signs read. "Mm-hmm," Harry mumbled, stuffing his face with chocolate bars bigger than his hand. "Where'd you get all these, Samuel?" Samuel tossed the previous sign aside and flipped through from another. "The circus," Harry grasped. "You work at a circus?" Samuel nodded, grabbing 6 spherical candies off the table, jawbreakers, and he started juggling them. They went up in the air and came back down in a rapid cycle. Harry could barely keep track of them in the dark, yet Samuel kept it up. Tossing them into an air and over again in a circular motion, the dexterity and the skill in his technique were incredible, a marvel to watch. For the finale, he threw them all up in the air and all at once and caught them in his mouth. Harry started clapping earnestly. Though his smile faded, and the crunching noise that followed, Samuel started chewing them. 6 jawbreakers, all at once, casually, with much ease, as Harry would have eaten M&Ms. Juggling, he's a demon. Ha! Pretty sure. "Do you have parents?" he blurted out, and Samuel smiled, swallowing with a hearty gulp. And he repeated the process of changing signs. The silence of the moment restored a bit of reality to the situation. The cold and dark crept in once more. And the sweet taste of candy began to fade. Samuel got his next sign out, showing it with a grin. "They died in a trapeze accident." Those words left Harry reeling with fear. He gulped down the last bit of candy. It was in his mouth, but the flavor suddenly changed. It became rancid and sour, the taste that made him gag. Samuel seemed to smile even wider at that. He flipped through another sign. "I ran away a few months ago. Ever since, I've been wandering the streets, looking for someone to be my friend." He tossed it aside and brought out the next. "Someone like you." Harry reached for more candy, shoving it in his mouth, desperate for that flavor to return. It didn't. In fact, it grew worse. The texture turned gelatinous, the taste to coarse iron, and the temperature went from cool to warm like flesh. It was like blood. He spat it out immediately, heaving over the table. His eyes were wide with terror, his heart going a million paces a second, yet Samuel didn't react. He just went on. Harry's gaze remained locked on the mimes and his signs as he trembled. At the circus, like my voice. No one except the clown, Mr. K. He was my only friend. He turned to another sign. "He always taught me to smile. But then he left. He had other shows to work under, and he's very good with disguises. So I haven't been able to find him again." He threw his sign away and snatched a gumball from the table. You should eat more candy. And he shoved the gumball in Harry's mouth. Oh, shit. It was a putrid taste, even worse than the last. It was cold, slimy, the strangest of all, salty. The texture was nothing like the hard gumball he had expected. No, it was squishy, more like a grape. He spat it out in an instant, falling back off his chair with a yelp. Mommy, Daddy, help me. And on the floor, the candy rolled in front of his face. It was a raw human eyeball. Green like his mother's, he shrieked at the sight of it, a tortured, high-pitched sound. And the mime stood over him with another sign, and something else that left his hand, something meaty, but Harry didn't notice. It was a curled up. He was curled up, shocked in fear, screaming, his voice hoarse. There was a crunching snap, and the object fell into Harry's side, wet and soft, fleshy. With one look at it, Harry convulsed and shrieked as though he had been electrocuted. It was a half-eaten hand, bleeding all over his arm. Blood dripped down onto the floor in small puddles around the mime. Secreted from his twisted smile, the mime stood tall over him, at least 5 feet high now. If you want to be my friend, you have to hear my voice, the next sign read. The mime tossed it aside as Harry backed away, crawling back like a crab. Do you want to hear my voice? No, Harry cried, tears flowing down his face. No, go away. And the mime's smile turned to a frown. He threw the sign, this time straight at Harry's head. It hit him with an unexpectedly strong force, leaving Harry on his back, clutching his forehead. Do you want to hear my voice? The next sign repeated. Stop, Harry pleaded, and the sign struck his face again. Do you want to hear my voice? Go away, he cried, holding his head, bleeding where the sign had struck him. He braced for the next blow when the next blow would come. His eyes locked shut, but it didn't. Instead, there was silence, and a dark liquid began dripping on his hands, seeping between his fingers. Oh God, his mind repeated in dread. He tore his hands back in disgust, and he saw above him the mime's face leaning over him just a few inches from his face, open mouthed, with dark blood dripping down. His eyes sat in hollow-looking sockets like marbles, lifeless, its jaw stretched open wide, unhinged like a snake to reveal the row of sharp teeth hiding behind the normal ones. And the low rumble emerged from his throat. The noise that followed was indescribably loud, a deep, eldritch roar that resonated throughout his entire body. Even though he only heard it for a brief moment, it felt like his skin was suddenly being picked all over with needles. It was only a second though. After that, his eardrums exploded and blood poured out his ears, leaving high-pitched ringing the only thing he could hear as he reeled back in terrible pain. He got up and ran, dashing back through the living room. It was a struggle. He was in such pain that the world seemed to spin around him. Sending him crashing between the walls, he made his way down the hall to his parents' room. But when he threw open the door, it was empty. Their beds did not show, a sign of being slept in that night. Even little baby Patricia was gone from her crib. Harry called for them, crying, dripping blood all over the place from his ears. But there was no answer. He couldn't even hear himself. So he dashed back out to his sister's room. The sight of when he threw open the door stopped him for a moment. He walked in, his mouth agape at the carnage. It had been trashed with walls slathered with blood and scratch marks. The floorboards ripped up here and there. Sabrina's dolls scattered about, all broken, and then there was there was her bed, ripped up, covered in feathers, with bed stuffing mixed with dark blood. No, he repeated to himself, struggling to get the words without hearing himself. Still, there was only that deemed ringing noise. He turned back, ready to run, ready to bolt straight for the door and get out the house. But the mime was right behind him, leaning over its body straight and rigid, low angled as to meet his eyes. Then the body suddenly crumbled to the floor and convulsed. It grabbed its throat, gagging and choking. Its eyes bulged out from its head as though they could fall out at any moment. Harry was cautioned. He edged his way around the monster, his eyes constantly switching between it and the door. Before he could leave, the mime spat something out, and rising as it did before, held up to Harry's face with a cruel smile. It was a ball of wet curly hair, golden brown. It was Sabrina's. With heaving pain in his chest, Harry turned and ran from the mime as it chuckled in its silent laugh. This isn't happening, his mind repeated to himself as he dashed to the door. At this point, his thoughts were all he could hear besides the ringing. This has to be a dream. He got to the front door, shut now, twisting the doorknob as was to no avail. It was locked, and the switch that locked it was jammed. There was no way out. Why? He thought with a frantic sense of dread, fully grasping the dire situation he was in. Why am I going to die? He turned away, and out from the shadows, the mime emerged. It stomped and swung its arms in a manner like dancer in a parade, now towering over Harry. At the height over the 7 feet, his eyes were gone, replaced with a black void that seemed to drip from his sockets over the crescent smile and lined with needles in his teeth. And guys, you know what? I am a little bit over my time, so I might continue this maybe next Tuesday. Liz says, oh, it's Pennywise from another form. So join me as I continue a few other stories, a few other creepypastas actually, next Tuesday. But till then, happy Halloween, and remember to stay out of the ordinary.
This is Mr. Applewhite speaking. Do not attempt to adjust your device. There is nothing wrong with it. I am here to deliver a message. Join Psycho Bunny Death Cult in our anti-censorship campaign. Free your mind. Free your head.